Welcome to Hot Takes, brought to you by 50cupstea.com, where united we sip, discuss, and learn. Join us as we dive into the hottest takes on culture, business trends, and the threads that bind us. Get ready for inspiring stories, candid conversations, and a fresh perspective on living a healthy, fulfilled life. Grab your cup and tune in. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bill LuMaye, and it's time for another 50 Cups Tea Hot Takes podcast. And with me, as always, the owner of a tea company, by the way, which we'll get into, is Mr. Jim Baker, and a wonderful guest, which he'll tell you all about. Hey, Jim.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah.
And have a little Arnold Palmer, a little lemonade. I didn't spike it too much with lemonade, so it's not super sweet. So
It's delicious.
on this 95-degree day, I thought it might be a little refreshing for us.
That's
and as
great.
always, 50cupstea.com if you need to make an order. But today we do have a special guest.
Yeah, we do.
We're honored to have Gary Schwartz with us today. He is the founder and president of Madison Planning, a financial services company out of White Plains, New York. And once Gary gets speaking, you'll know that he's born and bred in the New York area, mainly in the city. But Gary, how are you today?
I'm terrific. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming. So, as always, we're going to talk about some of your primary hot takes towards the end of the show today. But why don't you just tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Let's see. I'm in recovery 36 years from drugs and alcohol. I'm BC, not before Christ, before crack. But grew up in the Bronx, moved to West Rockland. Father had a butcher shop, went to school to be an accountant, hated accounting. So I bought a butcher shop, survived in the Bronx in a retail butcher shop for a long time, went into commercial real estate, then into financial planning.
How do you go from financial and accounting into a butcher shop? I'm just curious. What?
I'm a people person, so I really did not like accounting. I did that to make my mother happy.
Yeah.
You know, she wanted me to become a professional. So go to school, things like that.
We always want to make our mothers happy.
Yes.
We do.
And then my father had a butcher shop, and I bought this little butcher shop. It was 8 feet wide, 65 feet deep. Meat came on a hook. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Not in a plastic bag in a box. And used to be in the market at 3 o'clock in the morning.
And then you make another jump.
Then I made
Completely
another
unpredictable. I mean, if you were to predict your path, it seems like an unlikely place to be.
Yeah, and I
Right?
actually started in the business. After I got clean, I had to get a job, and the only people hiring in the 70s were insurance companies. So I went to work for MetLife. I liked part of the business, but I didn't like calling people up, telling them I had better stuff than everybody else. And then I went on the security side. It wasn't crazy about that. I wasn't a transactional person. And then I found planning. Started my own business with I had a mentor a guy I met through somebody who believed in me when I didn't. About 5 years in, clean. Mm-hmm.
So let's go back because there's a lot of stuff there. And what are you like in high school growing up?
Oh,
Are you one of many siblings? Are you the
one
only-
of 3?
Okay.
I was the oldest. I was mama's boy. Like, when I met my wife, she yelled at my mother for getting me a soda, So, like whatever I wanted. I used to lisp real bad growing up. So I was always in that little class, taken out by class, which made me feel insecure. And this is, I probably started to self-medicate. And that's how I, fell into, drugs and alcohol. I was a workaholic, so it gave me the ability to have money, in high school, even though I played sports, and then in high school I stopped playing sports And I used to, work like a madman, had a little landscape business. And just did work was easy. So,
And
that's
when,
how it
as a
was
kid,
done.
though, and you're growing up, I always want to ask this question just to, in case there's anybody out there listening as kids. And how do you self-medicate when you're 14, 15 years old?
You smoke pot to take the edge off. You start drinking with your friends.
So there's always a way to get it, I guess is what I'm getting.
Yeah, whether drugs and alcohol are legal or illegal, there's always going to be a percentage of the population that have an issue and self-medicate. And usually after somebody gets clean 90, 120 days, they're not physically addicted to anything. They're just left with themselves. And the only way they know how to deal with that, in everybody's situation, how they perceive their home life or whatever, One of the issues I have is today they put everybody on Ritalin. Everybody's got a diagnosis. Everybody's on Concerta, everybody. And I'm really, I just think it's overused and overabused.
Sure. And then going through this time, did your parents know about this? Or is it?
Denial is a big thing, My mother used to say it was the beer talking, like when I would lose. It's really me talking with the help of the beer,
And when you went into the butcher shop, was your dad looking to get out at that point in time?
No, he had his own butcher shop.
Oh, he did?
Yes. Okay. And I was on the other side of town, and he had a retired friend this guy I used to call him Uncle Louie, and he opened a store with me. I bought it from this guy, and I built it up. I was big into service and being a high end in that business and all that other stuff. And we used to deliver all over the city. And it was, in the early 70s, I was making a lot of money. I thought I knew everything. Then I realized I knew nothing. So,
yeah, I was gonna say, were margins pretty high in that business back then?
I don't know if the margins were so high, but there was a lot of cash. I was I was probably making, around $100,000 cash, driving a sports car, living large,
nice.
People telling me, Gary, maybe you should slow down, put some money away. I just thought I'd make more money next week.
Yeah.
And that went the way to Buffalo.
How long were you self-medicating? Throughout this period? How many years?
I got clean when I was 34.
34, okay. Well, did you have a family and all of that at that point?
I've tried all the things. Yeah, I met my wife. I was married 6 years before I got clean. 2 adopted kids.
Yeah.
And I got clean 6 months after the adoptions. I went through home studies.
Oh, been there, done that.
I was a very good actor.
Yes.
Yeah, so he thought I was wonderful. Yeah.
So you could be under the influence, but you knew how to work. You were a functioning addict, if I may use that word.
Yeah, that's not like a term I'm crazy about, but I used to show up.
Right.
Like I didn't roll, old people on the street. I would just worked harder.
Right.
You know what I mean? And always kind of did the right thing. Like even in my business now, we like the high end of the middle market, the mass affluent. And I tell people 60% of my job is therapy, 20% is social work, and 20% is, math and the other stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you, can I ask, what was the point where you went, this is it? Because because it's always up to you as an individual, right?
It's, yeah.
When did that happen?
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
It was the last time I used, I was out for about 3 days. You know,
Mhm.
my mother and my wife Pat was sitting in the kitchen, and I owned 2 co-ops. You know, like it's not like, you know, I was homeless. You know, I
Right.
always had cash, and so I was out for like 3 days, and I was avoiding everybody. Where everybody was, I was someplace else. You know, as they looked for me, and I was in and out of meetings. You know, talking to people, but it's just seemed to me that these people really had issues, and I didn't have those issues. You know, I didn't beat my wife. I didn't rob a store yet. I didn't, you know, and so I just didn't feel as sick as them. And I came home and I had 2 kids in the other room, and I called this guy that was my temporary sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, and I'll never forget this as long as I live, this was, you know, my higher power's gift to me, was he said to me, Gary, how you doing? I said, okay. He said to me, I got you into rehab. I said, rehab? He goes, 28 days. I said, 28 days? I got 2 little kids.
Right.
I can't really do that. And then finally I looked at my wife and my mother and I said, okay, you know, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah.
Then he said, first we're going to go to detox for 7. I said, 7 days in detox, 28, 35, I could still add.
Yes.
I said,
yes.
an important guy like me, I can't do that.
Right.
And he said, I'll tell you what you do, Gary. If you're still alive next week, I'll see if I could get you in. And that was the last time I used. I don't know what about that, but it just, that was it. And before I could go away, because my wife would not take off from work, so I had to have my mother drive me to detox in upstate New York, in Ellenville. And I had to have my in-laws come over and tell them that, you know, I was a drug addict and I was going away.
Oh, it had to be hard.
It was humbling, yeah. And I didn't know the reaction. And my mother-in-law was the type that she would rearrange your cabinets in the kitchen and stuff and check out your drawer. You know, she was a little much. She was the director. So, and I didn't know whether they would say, pack up the kids, we got to go, you know.
Right.
You know, you can't stay here anymore. But they came over. I told them. And my father-in-law was a pretty stoic guy. And and they were terrific. Actually, they were really terrific about it. And then from that day forward, I shut my mouth and put up with my mother-in-law. Yeah.
Probably a wise decision anyway.
She was who she was, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, so, you know, that's where that went. But yeah, and then my mother drove me up the next day to a detox.
Wow. It's amazing.
And what was it like going through detox
Yeah.
and then having to be gone for another 28 days after that?
Yeah, I spent my first Father's Day in rehab. Well, I got the detox, and they made me put on pajamas and slippers, and I told them I wasn't going to do that because I wasn't sick. And they pointed out to me, "You're in a hospital. How do you think you ended up here?" So, you know, so I did that.
Yeah.
It was long. I thought I'd rest up. I thought I'd, you know, learn how, you know, maybe I just got carried away. You know, maybe I just, you know. But there's a time when one day you're telling it what to do, and the next day it's telling you what to do. And you know, I went through that, and then I went from there to a rehab. And my wife was a little annoyed because at this rehab, it was the cheapest rehab in the state of New York. And I had a lot of money for that. And they had chores like this week you're working in the kitchen, next week you know, and you only had the pain box, which is the phone. You could only use it at a certain time. And I'm on the phone with her, and I said, I have to go because I'm working in the kitchen. She said, we're paying all that money and you're working in the kitchen. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So it was, yeah, and I went home and
I never looked back.
never looked back.
Wow.
I actually learned to speak in meetings because I would never speak publicly because I used to lisp so bad. So I would, I learned how, not to talk.
So your family, obviously very important going through that time.
Right.
But in just reading a little bit on you, you're very much a people person. I mean,
It's what I love to do.
I mean, you genuinely care about people in general,
Yes.
which kind of drives everything, doesn't it?
Yes, in the entire business.
How did you get there?
I think I was always like that. I like people. I mean, my main goal, even in my business, is not to make the most money, not to be the most efficient, but to give back. Like it's funny when you go through something like this, the people you think are going to help you don't, and strangers, people you never thought in a million years, show up and are there for you in many ways. And there's always been those people. The guy that said, "Don't worry, Gary, whenever you need anything, you call me.
I got your back. Call me."
Yeah, and then
he's
you
always
do,
busy.
Always busy.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll help you move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You need a few bucks, let me know.
Right.
But they never do. And then
Right.
there's somebody you never met before, writes a check for $9,500.
Yeah. Wow.
So those are the things that make a difference. So it's a lot of it's given back, even in the business. So I've done a bunch of management training and stuff, and I used to think some of what I do is part of my business plan, and he pointed out to me that it's not. So if I want to work with people who have no money or very little money or won't have money, it would be no different than me going to the hospital and working with the sick. So he made me start calling it my charity work. So if I do charity work 2 days a week, I do charity work. He's okay with that. Just don't call it part of my business plan. He was really adamant about not being part of my business plan, that someday one of these people are going to pop up and be worth $1 billion. So,
but if they did, they'd probably remember you.
They would, yeah.
You seem like you're a genuine, caring individual.
Yes.
Authentic.
And most alcoholics and addicts are.
Yeah.
Wow. So on the money side of the business, how did you break in? How did you get your first client? Was there a certain specific area or target clientele you were looking at? Just talk to us a little bit about your strategy.
Yeah. When I first started, I just wanted to pay bills. And one of the mistakes I made, I started to do okay too soon. And then I kind of wanted to make up for being a knucklehead. So I kind of bought a house I couldn't really afford. I sent my kids to travel camp I couldn't really afford, and was able to get credit. I was a middle class Jewish white kid, grew up in the suburbs. So I knew enough to how to make money, that. I didn't have any bridges left, so I just started calling people, cold call. In fact, my third client in the business, who was my CFO for a long time before he retired, this guy, Dean, not only became my client, he was an engineer and ended up working for me. And I owe a lot of the success of the business to him. Was he lent me $25,000 to buy my house, which is now illegal. You can't borrow money from a client. So so, I built the business. I started to do okay. And then I kind of buried myself. And that's when I found a mentor in the business, because I was drowning. I couldn't do enough, and the pressure, and I didn't use, and I owed a lot of money. So, because I was able to borrow money from people, friends, people were willing to help, but they weren't really helping. I was just digging a bigger hole. And at that point, I raised my hand again and found somebody who was willing to help me, just like in the program. And I started to realize in the business that, he had this really big house and a driver.
You had a driver?
Yeah. And I said, yeah, because I would go into the office with him in the city. He was retired already, but he had a driver. And I couldn't afford to get into the city. So I would drive to his house, and then his driver would drive us in. And maybe he knows something I don't know. Maybe he could, I was always getting ready to get ready. So I would take this course and that course, and, I have to learn this software and I had to know this and that. And he used to tell me, you got to stop getting ready to get ready. You could hire smart and stick them in the corner. Just go find somebody to talk to. You could be the world's greatest brain surgeon, but if nobody's sending your patients to operate on, you're going to be hungry. So that was everything he told me came true. Absolutely everything. And I just got to the point, clean, that I was willing to listen. I got, now I'm happy. I don't know much.
I was going to ask you that because listening is the hardest thing to do sometimes.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I see a lot, like I'm not a big Zoom guy. I like seeing people, because when you're in somebody's house or at their office or with their spouse, you learn a lot about them. It's not transactional. You get to see how they look at money, or how they look at their kids, or how they want to help their kids. And it's not, my values are not so important as their values, because I'm planning around their life, not what I think they should do, So how do you don't know that from a screen. And I know the people that are never going to run out of money. I know people that run out of money spending $200,000 a month. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're like,
I'd like to try that just once, though. Just once.
No, I had a guy, he bought a $40 million apartment in the city.
Wow.
And now he's broke.
Right.
And
So
the purpose of the business, obviously, is to set people up.
Right.
So when they do want to retire, they have choices, they have money, et cetera, et cetera. And then is it also to have this big distribution upon death to their kids, or is it probably you're probably going to customize it based on what the client wants to do? It's probably a fair assessment.
For the client?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of estate planning or a lot of elder care planning. It's very interesting. We do a lot of work. I worked hard at getting into a particular niche. Like I do the court system in the state of New York. So we supply financial education and planning to judges and court employees. And it's always funny. They always think they're going to run out of money. The biggest question is, am I going to have enough? And they could be 88 years old with money. And the fear is always the same, regardless of how much money they're going to have and what's going to go wrong, especially where they came from. But I tell them there's no cat food in your future. Even you can't mess this up, Judge. That's what I say. Even you can't mess this up. And they go to me, no, Gary, but what happens, And it's interesting. Like, I don't think I'll ever stop working, because I'm down to just doing the two things I like to do, which is seeing clients and speaking,
Was it hard with the judges? Because I kind of view them as doctors sometimes, where they've been educated, they seem to know a lot, but you're coming in as the expert, in terms of long-term, planning and wealth management, et cetera. And they're great at legal. But how did you penetrate that market and get them to trust you?
When I first started with my mentor, I would go to, let's say I would see an attorney, and I'd come back and he'd debrief me and say, well, did they have a will? And I said, I didn't ask him. He'd say to me, well, why didn't you ask him? I go, because he's a lawyer and I'm a moron. And why would I ask a lawyer if he has a will? And and then he would make me go back. And then he would ask, like even question, does his parents have a will? Is what they're going to leave him going to make their problem even worse? So that maybe, find out, really do a good fact find. And so just to find out that only about 35% of them have wills. And that's the same with judges.
Really?
Yes. And you would think, because I had, and I still have, a group of engineers, and I really believe there's not a lot of clients worse than an engineer, because they want to know the fiber content of the paper. They just don't take that to paper. You got to prove to them that that's paper. So I thought judges would read everything. And they don't. They read almost nothing. They either trust you or they don't. They sign almost anything. And that's how they run. I asked the judge, like, why do you, like, I was shocked, especially at the beginning. And they said, because that's how we run our business. We have a court attorney or two court attorneys we trust. We tell them what we want. They point out the 2 paragraphs that I asked them to put in there. I read those and I sign because I trust them. So they're not micro managing. And I found that fascinating, So,
wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think people just want to know they're going to be okay. I stay away from, I used to think I had to prove to people how smart I was, and they don't care. They just want to know, are they going to be okay, and can I get them to that point? You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to know. Yeah, they don't really want to know about standard deviation and charts and all kinds of other, things that we think that they want to know. They just want to know, am I going to be okay?
What are some of the barriers to your business? Is it if they're working with a wealth management firm, is that a barrier? Is the accountant the barrier? You have all these people with some people that have money, right? They have a team of people, and then suddenly you're coming in because they're not handling what you potentially could do for them, but then everybody wants the business. So how do you, what are some of the speed bumps, I guess, is probably a better word.
I speak about planning as an art, not a science, and that stuff happens in life. And the difference between a wealth manager and a risk management, somebody who's doing insurance or long-term care, elder care planning, is those are tools. So I say those are tools I use, but it's more important, how do you put it all together? And how do you manage the taxes between that? And what are we trying to do? And you're more worried about it looking good today or 20 years from now. But it's really about planning, and I try to separate myself. And I'm also a team player, so I'll include everybody. I want to make and everybody comes from a different education. Like, lawyers are trained to protect, accountants are, how much money could I save you today? Not how much money I'm going to save your family. So if I could get you a bigger return today, than later. So I really tried, I got to stop saying, so, but It's really about, planning as an art.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Much more than coming in with, if you're the insurance guy, the lawyer might have an insurance guy.
Right.
If you're the accountant, he might have a wealth manager. And more, even like Schwab on TV, everybody's got a planner now, right?
Mhm.
Even Fisher, right? They're doing planning all of a sudden,
Yeah.
And even with that, like, I hate that commercial. because they always say we're different, we're fiduciaries, but so is every lawyer in the world, and I wouldn't trust every lawyer. So it's really about finding honest and people that care. I'm a fiduciary, but
Here's a hot take on some 50 Cups tea.
The Immune Booster tea helps your body to fight off disease due to its carefully crafted ingredients. It contains peppermint and spearmint, which strengthen the immune system and fight bacteria. Ginger, which fights disease through its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Echinacea, which modifies the immune system. Elderberry, which contains vitamin C, phenolic acids, flavonols, and anthocyanins, which modulates the body's immune response. And it also contains oregano, which has powerful antibacterial properties.
Visit 50cupstea.com to find out more.
How big's your firm today?
we're about $600 million under management. We do quite a bit of insurance work, life and disability, and we're about 14 people.
You have a couple of different locations too, correct?
Right. We have the main offices in White Plains, and we have an office in Florida, a small satellite office in Syracuse, New York. Mm-hmm.
In terms of a ideal client for you, are you getting them in their 40s, 50s, married, not married, family, no family?
Ideal client for profitability is really right before retirement.
Okay.
People have a tendency to consolidate. Okay. I always pay attention to the wife, because most stockbrokers and wealth managers ignore the wife. And then when they die, they move the money. There's two times that, a couple times that money moves. It's usually at retirement, because they're looking for somebody to manage the whole thing. At divorce and at death. Those are the big times. And the money gets distributed to the kids. So we work very hard in developing relationship to the client's kids. I'll open up a $2,000 Roth because I want the kid to call me when the $3 million goes to the kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it, as business continuation.
Yeah. So tell us about your family.
It's me, my wife, and my two adopted boys. They're 6 weeks apart. One's from Santiago, Chile, and one's Irishman from Long Island. He was my mother's curse. You should only have one like you. And I did. I learned a lot about kids, in the sense that everybody's kind of born with a personality, and they are who they are. Ben was 65 years old at birth, and Andrew was me. It's been a great journey. The good news is that they never saw the money issues, really the drug issues, because they were so young, the insanity as much. And we grew up together, because they're 30, almost 37, and I'm clean a little over 36 years. So the three of us became adults together, and that's been a process. And I like the idea that both of them have, because I put us in a position, my workaholic really got bad. And so I was running around trying to, pay the bills and for them to have a life. And they both take time to be present in the family, both of them. So I'm actually okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, I would think I wouldn't be, but, I'm okay with that. Because I think there needs to be a balance, and I haven't done well with balance.
You gotten better over the years?
A little bit at a time, yeah.
Is your wife still working on you?
Yeah.
Slow down.
Yeah, I get a lot of that, but it's I feel very, since I built it, and I'm very attached to clients. We've got a lot of clients, and I would say a third of the clients have been with me more than 30 years. That it's, you get to see their kids get married. You get, people thank you for helping them. People thank you and say, without you, we wouldn't have retired. Everything's working out.
Yeah.
And that's very rewarding. So I get a lot more from the business than money.
Mm-hmm.
And I make more money than I ever thought I never dreamt about making this kind of money. So
I got to ask you a question, since you talked about judges not reading and just signing. You and your business, I assume you've set everything up so your family's taken care of down the road?
Yes. For instance, people will only do things they're emotionally involved in, I believe. So my father was a typical self-employed butcher who was on the books for $12,000 a year, and who thought he was much smarter and didn't believe in the government. He wasn't going to pay into Social Security, and he thought he'd never die. So he got sick in the 50s, and the guy running the store was a gambler, and so then he had no money, died young.
Oh, man.
And I've been supporting my mother, even in the assisted living. So that fear that I didn't want that to happen, I always owned a lot more life insurance than I could afford. Always. So, so that she would never be in that position. And I'm, paying to the max, so that, I believe Social Security will be here. There's going to be a lot of people unhappy, almost 80 million people, when the checks don't come.
That's true. That is so true.
That'll never happen.
It'll never happen. People hate the government till they need the government.
Right.
Right.
As you know, Billy, they'll just print the money if they have to.
Oh,
whoever print the money.
It'll only be worth a few pennies, but you'll get a check.
Yeah, that check's coming.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what advice would you have for somebody who's watching that, most of us believe we're not going to die, especially the younger you are. What should they be doing at this point in their life when it comes to that? Is it purely driven by having kids and a mom in a nursing home, or at what point should they be thinking, this is going to happen, it's inevitable?
Planning is important. Like even saving money. Some people are better at it than others. It's kind of like playing piano. But if you don't practice, you never get really good at it. Mm. And so people really have to learn to do that. Even me. And saving money, like when I was in the business making cash in the 70s, I thought that was going to go on forever. I thought I was going to retire at 35. It's, yeah. And then life shows up.
Right.
So, to plan and to take advice and to, especially younger people. And there's a balance to it, right? There's like, you want to have a life and you want to save for the future.
Right.
And so how do you work that balance? And it's different for everybody. Most of my clients, they, maybe their net worth is, in New York, it's kind of hard because if you own a shack, it's $1 million. So,
Sure.
They have net worths of 2 to 4, 5, and,
Mm-hmm.
liquid assets at 3, 4. I have clients worth $20 million with very little liquid assets, So it's really interesting. People are fascinating.
I get that from you.
Yeah,
I think
they're
that's probably the most fun you have is that relationship you develop in reading people.
Yeah.
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 It's fascinating.
It is. It is. People are, just how they go about things and how they view things. And we could be looking at the same glass and see 3 different things.
Yeah.
The 3 of us.
And that's probably from your life experience. All the good and bad times
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
taught you.
That's
and
why
it's given you some, I don't know, I don't want to call it is a passion, but it's almost like a compassion sometimes for people to listen, really listen and want to do what's best for them.
Right.
Not many people do that.
No, I think, like when I look for employees now, which is not easy because nobody wants to work, but
that's true.
But I'm concerned about 2 things. They got to care and have a work ethic.
Right.
I could teach almost anything else and find the right spot for them. But they got to care, and they have to have a work ethic. And they have to have some loyalty. I think loyalty is long gone.
Yeah.
People it's like, you haven't done anything for me for a while, so I'm going to go to Barry's place because I'm going to get another $1.
That is so true. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent, but I also think, these big corporations where my father, for example, worked at IBM for 30 years, took an early retirement package, but then 10 years later, the same IBMers got less and less of a package. Now some don't get health benefits going forward. I mean, the corporations over time have eroded that lifelong loyalty, right? It's a two-way street.
Yes.
And so I think, and then, you're growing up, you're seeing what your parents are going through, and you're like, well, I got to take care of myself. So I got to make sure I'm going to work hard, but every 3 years I'm leaving so I can maximize, so I can take care of myself. So I don't want to be in a situation where, 30 years in one company, suddenly I get 2 weeks severance and I'm gone, right? So I think that whole dynamic had changed, back in the 80s and 90s too, which I think perpetuates a little bit about what you see now.
Yeah.
Not saying it's totally responsible for it, but I'm just simply saying that, it's kind of a two-way street.
That is a reality. There's no question.
But that's capitalism. And that's what's, pure anything I don't think works. So pure capitalism is my only obligation is to the stockholders. I don't care about the employees or the people we serve even. It's only to the point for me to get them in the door. You know what I mean? For me. So when it's all about the bottom line, I think that's what's gone wrong with medicine. The group I'm involved with was bought by Optum, which is owned by United Healthcare. Mm-hmm. And it's run by MBAs. It's not run by doctors. To get to a doctor to talk to, forget about it. You know what I mean? It's if I didn't respond to you, and it takes some days to get back to me. If I responded to my clients like that, I wouldn't have any.
Right, right.
Yeah, that could be a giant hot take.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Yeah,
it was supposed to get better, and it didn't. It got worse.
It's all about money. It's all about money. Even when they talk about Medicare fraud, it's not Medicaid that's wasting money. Medicare that's wasting money. It's all the insurance companies that have learned how to steal the money.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. The private companies who have learned how to get paid on things because they've learned the codes. It's a problem.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem is that unlike your business and every other business in the country, the consumer or the client who's paying has ultimate control to some extent. In the healthcare world, the patient has no control
No control under the system.
because somebody else is paying, and that's the problem.
By design. All that's
course.
by design.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Probably.
Could you get a knee replacement surgery for about $1,000? And if you shop it around in the country, if you pay out of pocket, but if you go through your insurance, it's $10,000-$20,000.
But that's why I think, compared to the private insurance carriers, government health care is much better. Nobody ever complains about regular Medicare. They do complain about the
Talk to my
Advantage
mom.
plan. Well, regular Medicare, most people, if you get in Medicare, not Medicare Advantage, where everything's included, that's managed care. But it's probably more efficient than, it does a better job than we give it credit for the amount of people. You're going to have abuse in anything.
Sure.
Yep.
So it's probably better than some of the care most people are not getting. Because healthcare is a fortune.
I know.
I pay 100% of the employees' healthcare, and individuals are like $1,300 a month for not the best care.
Right.
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 It's a lot of money.
So I think getting back to the
Right.
loyalty situation, I think every good company has to have a way to engage their employees,
Mm-hmm.
The secret sauce.
Mhm.
Why do they wake up every single morning and come to Madison? From your perspective, what do you think that is with your company?
It was always important to me to have a big family, and I never did. And my employees became my family. So I have employees with me 22 years, 23 years, and 15. We don't have a lot of turnover, and that's because I treat them as if they were family, and and help them too.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a tendency to believe in people and give people a chance, but my employees have been with me a long time, and that's very important to me, because if I sold my business to a roll-up or an investment firm, I could probably double what I could sell it internally for, because there's a lot of that going on. But they would just treat it like a business, lay off half the employees, get rid of the clients that don't make money, and suck the money out of the business.
Mhm.
And I don't want that. So it's important for me that doesn't happen. I don't want Nina, who's been with me 22 years and started when she was 18, now has 2 kids, going to junior high school, to have to look for a job at 50, and she gets paid very well. She gets paid 6 figures in a job someplace else. She might get $60,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want that. So they're very important to me. It's just not about squeezing the last nickel out.
Mhm.
So, and I think that's why they stay. And I think loyalty is a thing you earn. It's not a thing that, why aren't these people loyal to me?
Sure.
From
your business perspective, 5 years from now, where do you see that industry going? Is it staying the same? Are there changes coming? Artificial intelligence? I don't know in your industry. Like, what do you think is the fax machine that gets rid of the courier kind of moment?
Everybody thought the robo managers, the wealth managers, were going to be the end to the business. I think people need help and they want advice. And it's not just about a 0.5% better return or less expenses. You pretty much get what you pay for. So, because if you could save 4% in taxes and the other guy's only getting a 0.5% better, you're behind that curve.
Right.
So I think being in the advice business will always be there. They're always going to be do-it-yourselfers. There's always going to be people that change your own oil. There's always, going to be those type of people. Or people who say, well, Bob, he's, 2 basis points less, and you gotta, so go to Barbie. I mean, you gotta learn to get there, to find value in what you do. We're not the most expensive, we're not the cheapest, but you gotta believe, I have to believe that they're getting value for their money.
If I was going to give somebody my wallet, I would want to trust them.
Yeah.
I don't know if AI will ever get to that point. It might.
Yeah.
But it seems like
Yeah.
that's key in your business,
Yeah.
especially for someone like me who doesn't have $20 million in the bank.
Yeah.
Got any job openings?
Yeah.
No. Sound like a great place to work.
We are.
Yeah.
We are a good place to work. It's been it's really been a hoot, because I really didn't have a plan. So the plan was built over time as things changed, because I was just trying to pay the bills, and I just ran. My mentor told me, Gary, you burnt all your bridges. You have to run faster and harder than everybody else.
Good advice.
Yeah.
I think you need to spin it to hot takes now.
Okay.
All right.
See if
Hot
Gary
takes.
has any hot takes.
Okay.
All right. We talked about a lot of things. What's your takeaways?
I like paying taxes, because I remember the days I used to get more money back than I paid in, and life wasn't so pretty.
Right.
So it's much better now. I remember the first time my wife said to me, how come we don't get money back anymore? And I said, we could go back to living like that. You know what I mean? Waiting for the tax return so I could pay a bill.
Right.
So this quarterly thing is fine.
Right.
I don't want to get ripped off, but I'm more than happy to pay taxes. I believe that one of the things that make me crazy is the lack of respect for institutions, whether it be religious organizations or the courts. I see people show up in a courthouse in pajamas,
Oh, yeah.
It makes me crazy. Go buy a $12 pair of pants at Kohl's and khakis. I mean, like, whether you like the person on the bench or not, they have control over your life.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me crazy when I go to a baptism and people are in flip-flops and shorts, and the pastor's just happy that the guy showed up, so they're like tolerating the behavior. There's just a lack of. I dress for me, like I wear a suit and tie. My son, they think I'm a little nuts, but I don't know who I'm going to see that day. And I'm not going to the courthouse in a button down and a pair of khakis. I'm going to go in a suit and a tie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like my armor. Somebody once said that to me.
Well, I think you get some respect for that as well, don't you? When I see somebody in a suit versus flip-flops, it's a whole different impression. So, yeah.
And you can never be penalized for overdressing.
I don't think so.
Right.
Packer game, they'd wear suits. I'm serious.
Well, that's a little insane, but that's to stay warm.
Well,
But
it's not the first time I've heard that about
even the
Packer
coach of basketball used to always wear suits, and then after COVID, they wear sweatpants now. It's like, go back to the suit.
Right,
you know?
right. Times
You're
have
the
changed.
boss of the team.
They make suits with, pants
Right.
for a suit now. I'm like,
Right.
what are you kidding me? Like,
And I will say, phenomenal dresser.
Yeah.
Style galore.
I like dressing. It's an issue.
Yeah, I have an issue with that too, especially when you're getting on an airline and
wear
like
jackets.
nobody wears clothes when they come on the plane anymore.
Oh, no, I
You
don't.
know, and you're nuzzled up next to the guy with the hairy arms and everything else. and you
Probably
got a
hasn't
tank top on.
bathed either. I mean, it's
a
rough
tank
flyer.
top. It's not even like a collared polo.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
really cheap shorts and a tank top.
Yes.
The guy could be worth $20 million. It's like it has nothing to do with that. I always wear a jacket because one, it's a place to put all my stuff, my wallet and stuff, and going through security.
Right.
That. I think that the other thing that's important to me is I think government does a better job than we give it credit for. And that's a combination of tearing down institutions, like no matter who the president is, I would never be nasty or rude. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just have respect for institutions, and I think we've lost a lot of that. I don't think we teach, like when I'm in the supermarket and I hear a mother say to her kid, if you don't behave, I'm going to have that policeman arrest you. I'm like, no, that's the guy you go to. It's not only to protect, it's to serve.
Right.
So you go to that person should you get lost or need help. And, that's how I was brought up. It was not the guy to fear.
Right.
It wasn't like the fear of God in you.
Absolutely.
So I think the government does a lot better job than we really give it credit to, especially a lot of the people that are actually doing the work. So not the senators or Congress people. Or
Except maybe at the DMV. Except maybe at the DMV.
Here's what I did learn by working with the courts.
What?
I was a typical off the street, no political context.
Yep.
And my view was that 300-pound DMV woman who wouldn't get up behind her desk while the line was growing longer and longer. Okay? And what I learned was it's no different than in the private sector. People care and work hard. And people who take advantage and are looking for the easy way out are looking for the easy way out. And it's the same wherever you go.
So it's more a reflection on the management and the boss.
It's
trying
more
to find the guy with the work ethic. And
that's right. And I've seen abuse in the courts, right?
Sure.
And I've seen, but most of them, 95%, I believe in the 5%. Like 95% of people are good, 5% we could live without, 95% work hard, 5% don't. But we always pick on the 5% is what's really been highlighted in our society over the last 20 years.
Yeah. Well, to your point, I think all of them work at every DMV in every state in the country.
Yeah.
Right. There's something else, I think, but anyhow.
Yeah.
But that's a tough one. I mean, that's one thing you could think about privatizing.
I think, well, certainly in this state, but everyone I've ever had to visit.
I mean, you can't get a real ID right now.
No, I know.
Yeah, and that's a problem for flying.
Right. So unless you have a passport,
And some of that is, what you're really willing to pay for. I think certain states do better at that because they have the revenue, and certain states
cut back on it.
Cut back on it, and where you're cutting back on, it's just Americans. I think like they think Starbucks is fast food. They get upset when the coffee's not ready when they pre-order it. It's like we were talking about it yesterday. DoorDash. They want to go downstairs, and I've seen people in Manhattan. The Starbucks is in the building, and they have it delivered. And I'm shaking my head.
Yeah, well,
they're paying more money for cold coffee
because they won't.
It's a 50-floor elevator. Get in the elevator, hit the button, and go down.
Yeah, that is a true statement of our society today. I think everything is immediate. If not, I'm bored. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this certainly has been boring. Yeah. I've learned an awful lot.
Words of advice through your years of experience you'd like to partake on the audience?
Yeah, I think everything is showing up. 80 to 90% of success is just showing up. It's about not giving up. And it's about learning to listen, take advice. Maybe that older guy isn't as dumb as you think.
That's why we're doing these podcasts now.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It was great to have you today. It's interesting, which is always great, and nothing but the best success for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Cheers.
you, guys.
This is wonderful tea, by the way. Where do you get this?
50 cups. 50cupstea.com.
Thanks for joining us on Hot Takes 50 Cups. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to visit our website at 50cupstea.com for more great content and delicious organic teas, and listen and watch us on all the leading platforms. Stay connected with us on Instagram at 50cupstea, YouTube, and TikTok. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends. Until next time, keep sipping and stay united.